Alrighty everyone, this is my 2026 Shiprocked review video. So I've been going on Shiprocked since 2014, and I found out about Shiprocked because Device, which was Dave Draymond's side project, announced that they were going to be on Shiprocked. And when I looked up and found out what Shiprocked actually was, I knew I had to get on board, and I was able to get 2 of my friends to go with me, and the rest is history. I love Shiprocked. It's a really fun time, and I'm fortunate that I've been able to make Shiprocked work for all these years. Some years it was a little tough, but I still managed to get myself on board. The first 3 years that I sailed on Shiprocked, we sailed on the Norwegian Pearl, and I love the Pearl. It's a really nice, quaint ship, perfect for a small-scale music cruise. But as Shiprocked began to grow, things switched over to Carnival, and we've been sailing on Carnival since 2017. This year, we sailed on a completely new ship, the Horizon. Prior to the Horizon, we sailed on the Magic for a couple of years, then the Valor, then the Victory, and then we were on the Liberty, and then we were on the Victory, and then the Pearl. So I really liked the Magic and the Valor. They were sister ships. I really liked how they were laid out. I liked how the rooms were. I liked where all the venues and bars were located, and I liked the service as well. And it was easy to find my way around to all the different venues and areas on the ship. I was a little shocked when we decided to switch things up and go with a slightly bigger ship. This is the biggest that they plan on going. We won't go any bigger. And I was a little curious as to whether or not I was going to like the Horizon, but I actually did. Spaces were a little bit different on the Horizon, but it still felt like a really nice size ship. It was bigger, but it didn't feel too much bigger. I kind of liked how modern the ship was. They had done a lot of updates to the ship. I do think that those made things a lot easier to get to. I had a spa room, and because I had a spa room, there was only one elevator bank I could really use. Actually, I think there might have been 2. So that limited things for me, but that wasn't a big problem for me. I had no issues getting an elevator. But this ship, in addition to having a few more rooms, they did have some other event spaces as well, including a couple of new bars, and they also had an area called the Havana area, which is on a lot of Carnival's larger ships. It's something I would love to try on a regular cruise, as it wasn't available to regular cruisers like myself, as the captain decided to utilize that area to host the artists, which I think is really great. So the Havana area is a private area specifically for people who booked a Havana room. And the Havana rooms are mostly on deck 5, though they have some above and below. The Havana rooms are basically on either side of the ship and are surrounded by the Havana bar. So those that booked a Havana room have their own private bar, and they also have their own private pool area as well. But what I really like about the Havana rooms is they have these Havana suites. And these Havana suites are kind of like balcony rooms, except instead of a balcony, you have a terrace. You have a bigger terrace with a chair swing, and you have some reclining lounge chairs as well as some regular chairs, and you have kind of like a junior suite type space. So if you're familiar with cruise ships at all, it's basically like a mini suite on a cruise ship or a junior suite, depending on, the class of ship or whatever. And those are really fun, and I would love to experience that at some point. And so I think I would love to get myself on a regular cruise just so I can experience that. I think it was nice that the captain sectioned that area off specifically for the artists, because I think it's nice for the artists to have their own private space where they don't have to get hounded by guests. There are a lot of newer travelers that sail on Shiprocked, and this isn't a slap at them at all. But if you've never done Shiprocked, it's easy to get excited when you see kind of an artist walking around the ship, and sometimes the artists can feel a little uncomfortable with kind of cruisers just constantly bombarding them and coming up to them. So it's nice to be able to have an area that they can have just to themselves and not feel kind of smothered by regular cruisers. So I think that that was a nice thing that Alan did. I did have an experience in the Havana bar though. They did some of the smaller meet and greets in the Havana area, and that's where they had something called the music experience, where they have different guitars that you can test out. And they also, like I said, do some of the smaller meet and greets. And when they had the smaller meet and greets, the Havana bar was open to regular cruisers during those times. And I ended up getting a strawberry margarita from one of the servers while I was waiting in line for a meet and greet. I think it's a really nice bar space. I quite liked it. And again, on a regular cruise, I would love to be able to experience that. They also had another new bar. It was called the Skybox, and I didn't get a chance to have a drink in there, but it's a sports bar, and they had basically floor-to-ceiling TVs. I think it was perfect for those that wanted to watch some of the playoff games, and if I end up going on Shiprock next year, I definitely want to have a drink in there. And they had the Red Frog Pub was a little bit bigger this year, and I liked that as well. They actually had an acoustic performance one night, and I thought it was really great. And I meant to go back and catch the acoustic artist again, and I just simply forgot. I didn't stay up very late this year. It was just, I was exhausted, honestly. My schedule was so busy this year, I didn't have time for that at all. Some of the other venues I liked the restaurant venues. Now they have 2 restaurants on the ship, and this year was a little different. Normally the restaurant that's open for dining is the one in the rear of the ship. But because that one is a little bit larger, they decided to have the dining open in the one that was in the middle of the ship, which was really convenient because of where our room was located and the elevator bank that we would take to get to that restaurant. But it was just a little odd not dining in the back of the ship. Now, we did dine in the back of the ship for breakfast on the very last day, disembarkation, but that was definitely an experience, but I enjoyed it. I thought the service was nice. The one venue I wasn't really that pleased with was the casino. I don't do a lot of gambling in the casino. I'm not good at gambling. I don't do well with table games, and I never win at the slots, so I typically don't play in the casino. Another reason I don't go in the casino much is because it's smoky. Now, they do have a non-smoking casino, but again, I didn't really go in. But the one thing I didn't like about the casino was there was no casino bar. And this wasn't a big complaint for me because, like I said, I typically stay out of the casino because of how smoky it is, and I only go into the casino if I'm trying to get to another venue. But a lot of people really enjoy going to the casino, especially late at night. In the casino bar is where a lot of the artists tend to hang out and have a few drinks. And a lot of people love just being able to drink and have fun conversations with the artists. And you couldn't really do that this year because there was no bar. I think next year, I could be wrong, I may have misheard, I apologize, but I think they might be trying to put a mobile bar in the casino just so there is a bar for those that like to hang out there. Now, one thing that the ship had, which were really cool, is they had these like funnel-shaped columns that had LED screens on them, and those were really cool to see. And they had one of those in the casino, and surrounding that were a few slot machines. Well, according to the captain of the ship, that used to be a bar, but they decided to take that out to add like 6 more slot machines. Honestly, I don't think that was a very great decision in my opinion. I would have rather had the bar in the casino. I'm not an alcoholic by any means, but if I'm on a cruise ship and I'm going to be in the casino, I don't want to have to go outside the casino to get to the bar. And I know there are servers that do walk around, but at the times that I was in the casino, I didn't really see a lot of servers walking around too much. I liked the cafeteria, or I'm sorry, I guess the buffet. It seemed a lot bigger this year, and there were a lot of different areas to eat, and that was nice. The Italian restaurant was about the same size. I loved the sushi restaurant. I loved how it was more of a restaurant style and not just a stand where you'd get sushi to go. And I ate at the sushi restaurant in between meet and greets one day, and I had really great service, and the sushi was really great. But I'll get to the food here in a second. I thought the staff on the ship was really great. We didn't really interact with our room steward this year, which I normally like to introduce myself and interact with my room steward, but you know, our room was always nice and clean and tidy. You know, I liked all of the different spaces. I liked the lounge. That was a really nice venue. I didn't see any concerts in the lounge. That's a really tough place to go see a concert because the seats aren't tiered. So unless you're standing in the front, you don't really get a good view of the stage, unfortunately. I did participate in the loyalty party, which is open to those 10 years plus, and that was really nice. The bands that performed were, we had, the Funeral Portrait, and we also had Sleep Theory, and they both did an incredible job, and that was great. They were passing around watermelon margaritas, and they had like hors d'oeuvres and finger food, and I really enjoyed the loyalty party this year, and I'll kind of get to more of that in a little bit as well. So that was my only experience though with that particular venue. I liked how they did the meet and greets this year. I liked kind of the space they had for that. I thought that dining room was laid out really nicely, and I felt like there was a little bit more space for the meet and greets. I liked the deck. The deck was a similar size to the Valor and the Magic, and I kind of, you know, I liked how it was laid out as well. I liked the aft pool area. I thought that was really nice. And I liked the Serenity deck. That was a little bit bigger this year, and I liked that as well. And I really liked the spa levels. I liked where my room was located. I was in room 14236. So we were right off the main pool deck area, which made getting to the deck shows really easy. I liked the size of the room. I liked the amenities of the room. Everything was nice and clean. I didn't get to do as much of the spa stuff as I wanted to. I did notice that the spa was a little bit busier this year. A lot more people did book the spa package. So if you're staying in one of the spa rooms, either on 12 or 14, you automatically get access to the spa, which is really nice. So if I do end up going next year, I do want to book a spa room. And so I will definitely get myself on the waiting list to get a spa room. You know, so at the time of this video, the cruise is not sold out. There are plenty of rooms still available to book. I, however, have not booked. I did not book yet because there have been some things that have come up recently, and I didn't feel comfortable booking just yet. I still really want to go, but I'm gonna have to wait to book. Hopefully I can get a spa room, but if I end up having to wait till much later, I'll take what I can get. You know, hopefully I can still get a balcony, but hey, if I can even get an interior, I'll take it. I really liked the selection of rooms that they had. It seemed like they had an increase in the variety of types of rooms, which is really nice, and allowed for many options to choose from, which is nice. You weren't kind of stuck with the same like 4-room types, and I did like that. You know, and all in all, I liked the amenities they had on the ship. The fitness center looked nice. They had this little like lounge area up there as well. The salon was really nice. I got my nails done on the first day, and that was probably one of the best pedicures I've ever had. She did a really great job. I'd like to address kind of the elephant in the room of the whole cruise, and that's the food. first off, I will say the best food I had was at the Bonsai Sushi. That was really great. I had the California roll. And what set these California rolls apart from a traditional California roll is that they didn't use imitation crab. They used real crab, and you could really taste the difference. It was really great. So I had sushi in Bonsai Sushi on one of the meet and greet days. I only had like a small window in order to get lunch. So I ran down to Bonsai Sushi and I grabbed a quick bite to eat there. I sat in the bar area where they make the sushi, and the service was really great and the sushi was phenomenal. I didn't get anything to drink there aside from water, just because I wanted to make sure I was back in the meet and greet line. And most of the breakfasts I had in the morning were really great. I had French toast on the first morning in the dining room, and I wasn't really a big fan. I didn't think it was that great a French toast. That being said, French toast is really hard to get right. And I've had French toast from a lot of places, and honestly, it's very easy to make bad French toast. I've tried to make French toast myself, and I do not do a great job. So I am not going to sit here and judge on French toast, honestly, because even when I wasn't gluten-free, I've had some not so great French toasts. Now, other meals that I had on ship, the pizza was really good. I ended up having gluten-free pizza one day at the pizza place, and that was really great. It was just basically on a frozen, cauliflower crust gluten-free pizza, but that's okay. That's how most pizzas are when you order them out anyway, and the flavoring was really good. They did a really great job, so I have no complaints about the pizza. Now, that's about where the good food ends for me. I did not have a single good meal in the buffet, not one. No meal I had in the buffet was good. From lunch to dinner to late night eats, they were terrible. And I'm not one to complain. It's very rare that you'll see me complain. The only time you'll see me complain is if I spend a fortune on something and I get like half of what I paid for. I very seldom complain about food. But this year the quality was just not there. And there was one night when they didn't have anything good to eat in the restaurant, so we decided to stick with the buffet. There was also a lot going on that night, and we thought that it'd be easier just to stick with the buffet. Well, I took my first bite of what I got at the buffet, and I immediately had to toss it. I hate wasting food, but I just couldn't eat it. So I ended up going to Guy's Burgers and getting myself a burger. I brought gluten-free buns on the ship specifically so I could enjoy a Guy's Burger, and I finally got to enjoy a Guy's Burger. The one day for lunch, we ate at the Italian restaurant. I ordered the gluten-free buttered pasta with, I think it came with vegetables. Well, the pasta wasn't even cooked. It wasn't like it was just a little bit al dente. This was very not cooked. Like they put it in the water for 2 minutes quickly and then took it out. I took 2 bites of it and I just couldn't even eat it. I ended up going down to the buffet where I had an even worse experience, and then I ended up at the taco restaurant. The taco bowl was really good. Oh, and the Guy's Burger was good, of course, too. But nothing in the buffet or the Italian restaurant was good. The dinners that I had in the main dining room, they were good. The lobster was pretty good, and, some of the dishes I had were pretty good as well. But I've had better on Carnival. I didn't think the food was just that great this year. And I was just very unimpressed. But the service and the cleanliness were impeccable. I have no complaints about that. I just hope that next year, if I do go on Shiprocked, the food is a little bit better. I'm not one of those people, but for what we pay on this cruise, I really wish that we had food that matched the price that we pay. Okay, so it is getting a little bit darker, so I am trying not to use any artificial light, so I'm just kind of gonna hurry up and get to the overall Shiprocked experience. So this was the second year that things changed in a big way for Shiprocked. Prior to last year, Shiprocked offered VIP, which was an extra $500. And what VIP got you was you got to have first entry to all of the deck shows and the theater shows, as well as the lounge shows. And you also got first in line for the meet and greets, and you got a private acoustic performance from some of the bands on Shiprocked. Well, last year they decided to do away with VIP and go with a more loyalty-based program, recognizing those who have put a lot of money into the cruise. So last year they had the loyalty, so 8+ years were able to get onto the Serenity deck and were able to get in the front of the line for the meet and greets. And you were allowed to bring one person with you in line to the meet and greet. Initially, they weren't going to do that, but enough people who had partners who didn't have the same amount of sailing as them complained, and they decided to change that. I like that they decided to change that because not only does it allow you to be able to get meet and greet photos with your crew of people, it also helps to make the meet and greet lines go a lot faster because these babies can go on for several hours because of the amount of people that are in line. And in years past, including this year, I'm sure they've had to cut people off. And so like I said, this was my 12th sailing, and I really like them switching over to the loyalty-based program. I did VIP one year, and I wasn't that big of a fan of it. Honestly, I didn't think it was worth the extra $500. So because I have over 10 years of sailing, what they did is for those who have 10 or more years of sailings, we got to do the private acoustic show that was normally only available for those who booked VIP. And that was really great last year, and it was just as great this year. We had Sleep Theory and we had the Funeral Portrait do the performing, and they both did an amazing job. And they were passing around watermelon margaritas, and they had cheese and charcuterie, and it was really delicious. That was good. And that was really great. I really enjoyed that. And I really liked getting to be first in line for the meet and greets. Now, we weren't technically first in line. They changed things up from last year even and decided to have those with disabilities get to be first in line for the meet and greets, which I am over the moon about. I don't have a disability and nobody in my group has a disability, but I think that really helps allow them to have easier access to the meet and greets. And a lot of people with disabilities can't take the stair zones, they have to take the elevator, and that helps really expedite the process to getting the meet and greets to run a lot smoother and a lot faster. So I really respect that they've been able to do that. One thing I wasn't too happy about this year though was that they didn't allow those with, 8+ sailings to be first in line for the smaller meet and greets. A couple of times they did, but other times they didn't. And I was able to get in with a friend who was technically there with a disability, which I know that's not exactly fair, but again, I think it helps to expedite the meet and greet process and make everything go faster. So that's one thing I hope they change next year and allow 8+ to get in the front of the line for the smaller meet and greets too. I liked that so much. Why? Because not as many of the 8+ sailors had any interest in doing the meet and greets, and so the lines were significantly shorter. And I tried to get there as early as I could just so I could hurry up and get the meet and greets done. And for a couple of the meet and greets, I was the first person in line, which was great. And there were a couple of them where I was, a few people back, but I was still pretty early in line, and I was able to get the meet and greets done pretty quickly, which I liked because it allowed me to be able to do other things. There were a lot more trivias this year, and I enjoyed going to the trivias. I thought they were a lot of fun. I didn't do great at the trivias, but I still had fun. I really liked this year how they did the merch situation. This year for the merch situation, they basically gave you order forms and you could look around and see what shirt you wanted. And then you would basically write that number down on a piece of paper, and then you would give it to the people working behind the counter and they would grab that shirt for you. Alrighty everyone, I apologize for the lighting change. I did end up turning my overhead light on as it was getting a little bit too dark. So the merch, I liked how they had it set up. I ended up getting a couple of shirts, and I thought the process was really easy. I went on the first day just to kind of see what they had. Another perk of being an A+ here member is that you got early access to the merch store. I didn't end up buying anything on the first day as I didn't exactly know what I wanted yet. I did get, of course, a Shiprocked shirt. So if you have 10 or more sailings, you got a free poster and you got a free shirt. And this was the free shirt I chose, and it's got gold writing on the back. I know you can't really see it, but this was the shirt that I chose. I wasn't initially planning on getting any band shirts, but I ended up getting two. I wish I would have gotten a third one from Aurora Wave, but I decided that since I didn't see them, I didn't feel comfortable getting their shirt because I wasn't sure if I was going to like them. But after hearing them on some of the videos, I really wish I would have gotten their shirt. But that's okay. I ended up getting a Dinosaur Pile-Up shirt, and I got an Archetypes Collide shirt. And I did get a Way to Work koozie. And that is what I got for merch. I thought that the customer service was great this year. The staff was really great as always. They did a really good job of keeping everyone in line, and they really did a good job with the meet and greets. There were a couple of things that I felt could have been improved upon, aside from the kind of early entry in the smaller shows. I think that they were kind of just letting people kind of sneak up front because they didn't really know where they were going, and that wasn't really being policed. Not trying to be one of those people, but again, if they're allowing, 8+ to be up front, it should only be for 8+, unless you're with another group of people, I saw a friend one time who was looking to do the meet and greet, and she was by herself, and I invited her to join us in our group so that she could, get in early and also, have somebody to do the photographs with. So that I'm okay with, but, some people were kind of sneaking up, and, I hope that, they kind of prevent that next year. I loved the deck shows. I thought that they did a really great job. For some of the bigger shows, they really policed the upper deck area. A couple years ago, one of the biggest problems was people would camp out in the upper deck area all day long, and they would also camp out on all the chairs on the lower deck and on the middle deck area too. And so if you wanted to see a bigger show, you basically had to get there at 3 p.m. or you weren't going to be able to see. So one thing I really liked that they did this year and last year was they really policed those upper and middle deck areas and didn't allow people to camp out. They didn't allow people to kind of have chairs there in order to prevent people from just hogging up the space the whole time. And not having chairs there also allowed more people to be able to fit on the railing. So that was really great. And because of that, I was able to have a really good view. There were a couple of times when I didn't get to the show early enough and it was kind of a couple rows back, but eventually I was actually able to get my way up front as people began to leave. So I really didn't have a problem with seeing this year. The theater, I felt a little bit differently this year about the theater. I felt the theater might have not been smaller, but it was situated a little bit differently than in years past. And I found that it was really hard to get a good spot in the theater. Unless you waited in line a couple of hours before the show, you weren't really going to get a great spot to see. We lucked out a couple of times and found a spot on the kind of orchestra level, so to speak, kind of up against the wall. It wasn't the best view, but it was better than, other places in the theater. I think next year, if my friends and I go, we're going to try to maybe explore the balcony area and see if we can get a better spot up there. The sound quality was great in the theater, though. I just wished that it was situated a little bit differently, like it was on the Valor and the Magic. Um, like I said, I didn't see too many shows in the lounge area. I did see a show in Ocean Plaza. I thought that was really great. Again, it's a smaller venue, so, unless you get there really early, you kind of have to stand further back. But we were able to see pretty well, and the sound quality was great there too. Yeah, and all in all, I thought that this year was really well done. I thought it was run really great. I loved this year. I absolutely loved the pre-party as well. So I guess I'll get into that next. So last year and this year, they changed up how they did the pre-party, and they started having the pre-party at a place called the Hangar at Regatta Harbor, a really nice area, and I love the pre-party. I normally skip the pre-party because it's always overcrowded, and it's just, they always overbook it, and I never find it fun. But when they changed the venue, I decided to give the pre-party another chance, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was very crowded last year, so, I kind of found that I had to stand pretty far back. But this year, it actually wasn't as well attended as last year. A big part of that was because of the weather. There was a lot of really bad weather, and people had a lot of trouble getting in for the cruise. And some people even had to come in the morning of because of flight delays and cancellations. Fortunately, the blizzard didn't hit Pittsburgh until the following day. So we were saved from having to deal with weather. And I think we flew into Baltimore and then on to Miami, and we had no issues in Baltimore. I think the only thing they had to do was de-ice the plane, and that was perfectly fine. So that really helped make the experience more enjoyable, not having as many people. I was able to get a little bit closer to the stage and move around a little bit more. I didn't have any of the food there, and I didn't have, and I only had one drink. I didn't get any merch. I did wear my Upon a Burning Body shirt, which some of the members of Upon a Burning Body walked by me and said that they loved my shirt. So that was awesome. And then they had like some type of a club or bar next to the regatta, and they had a cover band kind of playing outside, and that was really fun. We hung out there kind of during the intermission and watched a couple of those songs as well. But I really liked the pre-party. Now, what I didn't like was the timing of the cruise. And what I mean by that is, well, the cruise embarked the day of the Miami Marathon. And there were lots of cruises that embarked the day of the Miami Marathon, which made getting to the marathon extremely challenging. And it took us 2 hours to get from the airport to the port. And we didn't end up getting on the ship till almost 2 o'clock. I made it in just enough time to get to the cabin, explore the ship a little bit, and get up to my nail appointment. But I made it on. And that's no fault of Shiprocked. They don't plan these things, and I wish that they would maybe not have a marathon so close to the biggest port in the world, but I digress. But we made it on, and we had a great time. So all in all, I think that Shiprocked was really great. From the pre-party to the performances, I really enjoyed Shiprocked this year, and I hope that I can attend next year. Like I said, I'm waiting to book just because of a lot of factors right now, and I do plan on getting on the ship one way or another. It's just, we gotta see what happens with things, and I have some people that are really hoping I book, and like I said, I'm really hoping that I book too. Oh, I almost forgot. I want to talk a little bit about the ports as well. So, we hit up 3 ports this year. The first port we hit up was Carnival's private island of Half Moon Cay. It was very cloudy and rainy, so I didn't end up getting off in Half Moon Cay. It was also pretty chilly, so I instead decided to explore some of the ship's amenities and stayed on board. And I had an enjoyable time doing that. The second port of call was Carnival's newest private island, Celebration Key. Everything was very new and fresh, and I really enjoyed it. They had a lot of different, beaches that you could do different beach excursions, and they had different kind of club areas, and they had this one kind of bar area with food and drinks that was open to everyone, and we really enjoyed that. They had a marching band kind of come through a couple of times throughout the day, and that was really fun to see. And they had some vendors in Celebration Key as well. I really liked the shattered glass that they had like within the pavement, kind of like the shattered sea glass. It was like red, orange, and yellow. I thought that was really cool. All in all, I really liked Celebration Key, and I would love to get back to be able to hang out on the beach at some point. The final port of call we hit up was Nassau. Nassau's not my favorite port. There's not really that much to do in Nassau, but something I really wanted to do was explore some of their public stairways. If you've been following me for a little while or know me at all, you know I love climbing Pittsburgh's many city steps. Pittsburgh has over 800 sets of city steps, and I have this crazy goal to hike every single one of those sets. And so when I found out that Nassau also had a few public stairways, I wanted to explore them. One of the main ones I wanted to explore was the Queen's Staircase, and I'm really happy I got to experience it. The reviews made it seem a lot more cumbersome than it actually was. It's not that steep, and there's not that many steps. I think there's like 60 steps. I've climbed Rising Main, which has 175 steps, so not even, half the length of Rising Main, but it was fun to get to do, and there's a waterfall next to it, which was really cool. And we ate at this really great Greek place. I think it was called Athena, and I had an incredible lunch. It was shrimp souvlaki, really delicious, and of course we had saganaki. That's where they light the cheese on fire, and everybody yells, "Oppa!" And I had one of the best strawberry daiquiris I've ever had. It was really delicious. So one thing I forgot to mention, and I'm sorry for bouncing around, was the Hailstorm meet and greet. Hailstorm only performed one time on the ship when we were docked in Nassau. They flew into Nassau, performed, and then got off the ship and flew back home. Because of this, they were only able to do the meet and greet right in the middle of Nassau. We wanted to do this walking tour, but because of the meet and greet, we ended up just deciding to do our own walking tour instead in the morning, go do the meet and greet, and then we got back off to go to lunch. I was happy to be able to explore a little more of Nassau. Again, it's not my favorite port, and the last time I went to Nassau, I didn't really even go very far. I just got off to get a couple of souvenirs and hopped right back on the ship. So getting to spend a little more time in Nassau was nice. I think one of these years, if I ever hit up Nassau again, I think I'd like to explore the brewery and some of the other things Nassau has to offer. With that said, all in all, I thought the ports were really great. I was really satisfied with everything. I liked having the extra sea day, though. I'm somebody who doesn't mind being on the ship. So I really look forward to see who's going to be on this year band-wise, and to see kind of the different changes that they end up making this year, and hopefully I'm able to get on. But yeah, that is my review of Shiprocked 2026. See you guys later.